The fog of the unknown continues to plague my mind. I must unravel this mystery and discover who I truly am. Welcome back, dear listeners, to the Secrets of a Shadow. The Witch on Well Street, Miss Mary Canary, was a kind, eccentric lady. She had helped me on several other cases where things just did not add up. In addition, everyone in town visited her, so she knew all the gossip. If anyone in town was going to know about this new organization, it was going to be her. When I arrived at her home, a cute cottage-style home with a lush garden out front, the rain had stopped. The sun was just starting to shine, and a rainbow was starting to appear. I walked across the wet sidewalk to her door and knocked twice. She answered quickly, as though she was expecting me. She welcomed me in and offered me a seat at a nearby table. I took the seat and was soon handed a warm cup of tea. We sat in silence for a while, just sipping tea before she finally spoke up. She asked me if I was here about the girl that had been found. I replied that I was and that I had discovered something odd that I was wondering if she might know about. She frowned slightly before asking me if I meant the new Church of the Awakened Soul that had popped up about a month ago. I nodded. How did she know that? She must have seen the puzzled look on my face because she continued to say that someone from the organization had come to talk to her, to recruit her. They had heard about her powers and thought she was a perfect candidate for their organization. She told me she had refused and that the decision to refuse them had almost cost her greatly. She told me that this organization had some kind of power behind them, some kind of unexplainable power that she was only able to protect herself from because of her practice in the mystic arts. I eyed her suspiciously. She just shrugged and said, "If you don't believe me, you don't believe me," and left it at that. I asked her if she knew anything else about the organization. Mary said that all she knew was that some divine power gave them strength and to stay clear of them. I told Mary about the girl and the alleged involvement of the organization in the case. Mary just sighed and asked me if I had any weird dreams lately. Her face fell when I told her I had not, but was unable to recollect what had happened the other night. Mary quickly pulled out some kind of mystic instrument and waved it over me. Her face darkened further. She began to speak, but her voice was drowned out by the sound of the rain that had suddenly increased outside. I tried to hear her clearly, but it was no use. I could hear nothing over the pitter-patter of the raindrops on her roof. The rain continued harder now, and I looked back over towards Mary, who was just sitting there smiling. What was I doing again? Why was I here? A sort of fog had fallen over my mind, and I could not think straight. A small headache was starting to form, so I got up and thanked Mary for her time. She just smiled slightly back at me, a little too politely, but I could not pinpoint what it was that was suddenly off about her. I walked outside into the rain that was now slowing down once again, and over to my car. I looked back towards Mary's house and could see her kindly waving in her doorway. I waved back and headed back to the office. I had some thinking to do. I hopped in my car and the radio blared to life. A smooth, jazzy sort of tune hovered in the air for a moment. I sat there, closing my eyes, letting the tune fill my soul. Suddenly, a bump awakens me. I look around. I'm still in my Cadillac, but now I'm in the back seat with the car being driven by someone else. That same jazzy tune playing on the radio. I look around quickly and notice it is no longer daytime, but rather the dead of night. I moan with the pounding in my head. This gets the attention of the person sitting next to me in the back seat. I can hear him mumble some words before reaching in his coat for something. A large needle appears in the man's hand, and I begin to panic. I lurch sideways, knocking the needle out of the man's hand and onto the floor. I began fighting this behemoth of a man. desperately trying to escape. The patter of the rain thunders on the roof of the car, and I can feel my consciousness leaving me once again. I try to fight, but the sound of the rain thunders louder and louder, and I can feel my body growing limp. I see the man reach over to me with the needle once again, and I see it. The tattoo on his wrist. The red compass rose with the odd symbols. He was a follower of this cult that I was hunting down. I try desperately to remember every detail I can about this man as he inserts the needle into my arm. I feel an icy liquid fill my blood, and I drift off into whatever dreamland that this substance just induced. When I wake up, I am back in my blue Cadillac outside Mary's house. The rain is slowing to a light patter, and the jazzy tune was just ending. I must have fallen asleep for a second. I could see Mary still at the door, waving kindly, smiling just a little too politely. I have this odd feeling like something is off, but I cannot quite put my finger on it, so I drive back to my office. When I arrive, Darlene is waiting there for me, a new file held firmly in her hand. I thank her and head back to my desk to examine it. Another murder in West Falls. This time, it is an older Mary Canary. But that could not be. I had just been at Mary's house not 20 minutes ago. I saw her waving goodbye to me. She could not be dead. But there her picture was, her body limp and lifeless. I stared at the photo for a minute and noticed something odd. A piece of paper could be clearly seen with a red compass rose on it, but unlike the other compasses that I had seen, this one only had 3 symbols on it. The fourth, the symbol at the bottom, was missing. In its place was the letters S.M. Were those the initials of the deceased Sarah Matter? If they were, why would her initials be there? I continued to flip through the case file. Her body was found in the west end of town, near the old abandoned church. I grabbed my hat and headed over to the crime scene, waving goodbye to Darlene as I left. It did not take long to reach the old church. It was a rundown church, abandoned years ago by some non-denominational church that failed to get started. They had built an entire church, steeple, and all before declaring bankruptcy and skipping town before someone could collect their debts. The church was soon seized by the government of West Falls and sat abandoned for the last 10 years. It was said that the church was just a front to cover a larger organization, and that they built the secret passages under the church that led to secret vaults and rooms underground where unspeakable things were done under the guise of religion. People now just tended to avoid the place, but some, who are more daring, try to find the secret rooms. No one has been successful. I pulled up to the curb and stepped out of my vehicle. John was already there waiting for me, looking anxious. "We got another one, Silas," was all he said. That same compass rose and the same distinct lack of cause of death were still present. I walked up to the body and examined it closely. Mary's pupils were glazed over, and her mouth hung slightly agape in a weird semblance of a smile. She had been dead for quite a while, but how could that be? I had just seen her, and yet here she was. I guess her protections could not keep her safe from whatever had come for her. What was it that came for her? There was no marks visible on her body that would indicate choking or brutality. So what killed Mary Canary? I scribbled down some notes and thanked John for his time and help, and then headed back to my car. I needed to figure out what the compass meant and how it fit into this case. I knew there was not any more help for me in the library, but there may be one place that might have something on the matter. I started my car and headed east towards a small Asian store. The name of the store was Lee's Exotic Imports. The store sold a variety of stuff from all over the world, mostly from Asia though. It held things ranging from exotic food to tapestries to all sorts of exotic things. It also held a large library of books from around the world on all manner of topics, including the occult. I pulled up to the store and immediately noticed something. On a large tapestry in the front of the window was the large red compass. I get out of my car and head into the store and immediately was greeted by an old man with a thin white mustache. I thanked him and asked him if he knew anything about the symbol on the tapestry. He replied that it was the compass that no one can follow. Those that use it to seek the truth will always be led astray, but those that use it to follow their hearts will always find the truth. I gave the man a puzzled glance, and he just smiled. I asked him what the symbols around the outside meant, and he replied that it was the path to enlightenment and the people that it required. There was the innocent saint in the south, the false prophet in the west, the corrupt nobleman of the north, and the enlightened of the east. So did that mean I already had met two? Did that mean that I was on the path to enlightenment? I needed to do some more digging. I thanked the man for his wisdom and headed back to my office. When I got there, Darlene was missing. Not too odd, but I would have liked her help right now. I started digging into all the information that I can find on Sarah Matter. The rain started again outside, but I tuned it out. I had to know if my hunch was right. Was Sarah Matter the innocent saint in the south? Is that why her initials were on the new compass? I searched through all the records I could find. Sarah's after-school activities, her extracurricular activities, her hobbies, and it all pointed to the same answer. The rain poured outside, thundering against the roofs and the walls. It was almost making me lose my train of thought, but I focused in. Sarah was an A student, tutoring those that were struggling. She always was open to helping others, was what her obituary said. Her hobbies included helping the homeless and volunteering at soup kitchens. She was basically a saint, according to her friends. She had also never been in a lick of trouble. A truly innocent saint, found dead in the south. The first person on the road to enlightenment. The first body I had found. The rain pounded even harder. But what about Mary? She was not a false prophet. Yeah, she could generally tell you about what was going to happen before it happened. But she was generally right. Did they target her for another reason? She was trying to tell me something before the massive rainstorm. She had seemed very unsure about something, but what was it? I wished I could have understood her warning better. The rain thundered down in droves now. I could feel my heart beginning to race and my head beginning to spin. The world around me blurred, and I could feel myself falling down. I felt my head hit the floor, and then blackness engulfed me. Welcome back, dear listeners, to The Secrets of a Shadow.